We got a dog because our younger daughter was adamant that we would get a dog, and she asked and she asked and she asked. And I was always reluctant for this reason or that. And she was just so insistent that ultimately she wore us down. And when we realized that her older sister would be moving out and going off to university, it seemed like the perfect time to give Olivia a companion. Zola is a remarkably laid-back dog, while at the same time she has this kind of intensity when it's time to play or it's time to get outside. But it was very much sort of an arm's length relationship, you know, like it was my kid's dog and I had a role in taking care of her. I didn't really get what kind of relationship you can have with a dog in a sense. I thought my state of health before was excellent. I assumed that it was ideal. It turns out it wasn't.
It was early in December. The dog and I were settled in here to read in front of the fire.
I was constantly active in a very sort of aggressive way. I would go out for long cycles, and I came back and I was in my usual sort of, you know, exhausted state. I just went upstairs to clean up and watch television.
One of our daughters had gone to bed by that time. One of our daughters was just getting out of the bathtub. And I heard this very heavy thud. People tease me, and I sort of jumped to the worst conclusion, and it's nothing. And I thought I probably just dropped some books or something. And so I decided I wasn't going to go up and investigate. And then the dog started to go crazy. She started snapping and growling and barking, and she wouldn't let me sit. She chased me, basically, made me go upstairs. It's entirely unusual behavior for her. I was going upstairs, calling his name, not hearing him. The dog's barking away. And then when I got up to the third floor, Matthew was lying on the ground, and he was blue, and he was turning blue, and his eyes were open, his mouth was open, and he was sort of lying behind the chair. I started to resuscitate him, you know, airway, breathing, circulation, all this sort of training came back very quickly. I called the girls. I had my daughter Alice on the phone to 911, speaking to the operator. My daughter Olivia, she had to open the door, wait for the police downstairs. Finally hearing the sound of the sirens coming up the street and just thinking, in fact, they came very quickly, but it felt like a long time. It felt like a long time.
They did defibrillation, they gave me an electric shock and it didn't work. And they gave me another electric shock and that didn't work. And so they did the third one, diminishing expectations of any sort of positive outcome, and that's what worked.
Matthew's heart started working again, and very quickly after that, they transported him to the hospital.
I was the on-call physician for treatment of heart attacks for our hospital, and we found that he had 100% blockage of the largest artery that feeds his heart. And this artery has been called the widowmaker because this is the one that, when it causes a heart attack, can often lead to fatality. What we did at that point was we very quickly opened up his artery and restored blood flow.
It was a series of things, all completely out of my control, out of my purview, that all happened exactly when they had to happen in order for me not only to be alive, but actually to have no negative effects. And the only reason any of these things happened and were able to happen is because Zola sounded the alarm at the beginning. If she hadn't, I'd be dead. I would have died that day. I had to recover, and I had to rethink the way I was exercising. And Zola provided this sort of context in which I could go for a very gentle, reflective form of exercise.
The dog is famous in the neighborhood now for her heroics, so I think she gets a lot of respect from everybody. I mean, we always treated her well, but now we treat her super well.
Zola's induction into the Purina Animal Hall of Fame, it seems to me the perfect way for us to acknowledge Zola's incredible contribution.
Zola, well, first of all, as we know, was really the most important variable at the very beginning that led to Matthew's successful treatment.
I have to say that my relationship with Zola is completely transformed by this experience. Profoundly grateful, on one level, but it's deeper than that. It's a kind of appreciation for what she did, but more for who she is and the role that she plays in our family.